Light that spark, Fire Nation. JLD here, and welcome to Entrepreneurs on Fire, brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network with great shows like CEO School. Today, we'll be breaking down how an entrepreneur scaled from 2 duplexes to over 1,800 units in just 6 years. To drop these value bombs, I brought Jason Yarusi into EO Fire Studios. Jason is the founder of Yarusi Holdings with his wife, Pili. They have acquired $180 million in real estate across 1,500 multifamily units since 2017. He is an avid ultra runner and workout enthusiast. He hosts the Multifamily Live podcast and Jason and Pili Yarusi on YouTube. And today, Fire Nation, we'll talk about this scaling. We'll talk about the 100-mile mindsets. We'll talk about producing massive income and how the riches are in the niches and so much more, Fire Nation, when we get back from thanking our sponsors. Success Story, hosted by Scott D. Clary, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network and features Q&A sessions plus convos on sales, marketing, business, and more. A recent ep on how to protect your business in times of crisis is a must listen. Listen to Success Story wherever you get your podcasts. Jason, say what's up to Fire Nation and share something that you believe about becoming successful that most people disagree with.
Sure. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. And what do most people disagree with about? Honestly, is that you have to be lucky, right? And most times say what you hear that is that I'm not lucky. I don't have lucky. I haven't grown up in the right family, or I haven't been around the right people. I didn't get the right school or the right education. But it's the action that keeps most people from where they want to be. It's the thinking about where they want to go, the thinking about what they want to do, and not taking productive steps to get there. And when they do take that first step, ultimately just giving up too early, right? The path there, so many times, what is it? We think the destination is actually the vehicle, but the vehicle is what's driving us to where we want to be. And if we can just continue on that road, everything we want is in front of us. It's just the action steps to get there that have to be taken as soon as possible to put yourself on the path forward to where you want to be.
Well, Fire Nation, I can tell you with absolute certainty that Jason is an action taker. Because as you heard about in the introduction, we're going to talk about how he scaled from 2 duplexes to over 1,800 units in just 6 years. So, Jason, let's cut to the chase, brother. How the heck did you do that?
It does come down to the mindset first of just choosing where you want to be, right? And I was in a position where I wasn't happy with where we were. It was actually we're husband-wife company here at Yarusi Holdings, my wife Pili and myself, and we wanted to get back our time control, working in New York City bars. So even more than that, we were bartenders probably a little more than 10 years ago, right? And so we started saying we want our time back, and what we found is that all the activities, all the jobs we were having were driving our day. Everything that was happening to us, and we didn't have the control. And so we were looking for real estate, we were looking for other points, and we were doing active real estate like flipping and wholesaling, all these things that continue to take our time away. And we came upon investing in multifamily. And at the time, we thought that was 2 duplexes, 2-unit buildings, and we were buying them, and they were doing great. We were putting together teams. We were doing this about 1,000 miles from where we lived. We were setting them up, and they were performing great. But just the economies of scale was not there. And just having a bunch of random duplexes around town, trying to run around and create a vision with that, it wasn't there. And it came upon, like on a podcast just like this, someone investing in large apartment buildings, and that was that aha moment. Because most of the time when we look at buying an apartment building, we think it's REITs or big companies that are doing it, but there is the availability to each and every one of us. We want that path, whether you be an active or passive investor. So we sold out those little properties. We dove all into learning all about the space, how people do it, how people look to do it, what kind of buildings, what kind of market they look for. And we did that back in 2016. That led us down the path to buying our first 94 unit. And that was in the middle of May of 2017.
So a lot of people are scared of the economy right now. So I want to talk about where there are great opportunities in both the good times and the bad times. What's been your experience?
Sure. Multifamily investing and multifamily real estate perform in good times and bad, right? And so we go all the way back to 2007, 2008, and multifamily had a default rate that was about a 20th of what single family houses have. When you look at rental rates, there's only been 1 year on record. It was back to, I think, 2007, when the average rental rate over the US actually went down. And what stands out about multifamily investment is that there's, say you buy a 100-unit building, there's 100 tenants that can come up to pay your rent, right? If it's a single family home, it's either someone's paying it or there's no one there to pay it, and that falls back on you. So that creates an environment where lenders love the multifamily space because it has a lot of ability to be able to have the safety net, right? Because of the larger asset, because of the economies of scale. And you can build it like a business where this business can have a full-time leasing person, full-time maintenance people that can be afforded by the property. And where this trends well, like talk about today, is that multifamily real estate does very well in an inflationary environment because you have short-term leases that are basically year-long leases that are renewing or releasing throughout the year. So you're able to adapt to market conditions and change to. And for commercial real estate sectors, say office or retail, you may have 3 or 5 or 7 year leases, sometimes longer, where you get locked into a rate. And if we see the drive up in rental rates of what it is today, well, you may be locked into that rental rate with very minimal increases within there. Couple that is that inflationary environment also trends to the success of the worth of the buildings, because right now, as we stand today on this decade, we're going to come up short about 4.5 million homes over the course of this decade. We actually haven't built to the amount we needed per year since back in 2007, 2008. And although we need housing very badly, it's very hard to get it started. And with the rise in cost, and now costs more to do so, harder to get labor, slower to come on board. So people wait. And as they wait, it makes the assets, the current apartment buildings, worth more because the replacement cost costs more to do that. Couple that with multifamily real estate, you have so many different avenues for which you can create value. Instead of potentially flipping a home or with a stock, you hopefully buy low and sell high. With multifamily real estate, you have cash flow that comes from your tenants paying rent, which is now paying for your expenses, which is paying for your mortgage, and what's passed left after that becomes cash flow. You have appreciation. Some we talked about just with the inflationary environment that can happen from just the market conditions itself, but the improvements we do to the building creates more value in the buildings. We're actually able to force the appreciation forward, specifically accelerate depreciation. And what that allows is we're able to force forward the depreciation of the building that creates paper losses that can offset some of our other taxes that are coming from some of our other income coming from other areas. So it's a great way to basically offset your tax exposure. Then you have the diversity, right? You have the diversity where you can invest in multifamily real estate, in any market, in different situations, in different types, different building sets, different building classes. And then you have your tenants paying down your debt over time. So that's really the thing that gets forgotten a lot, is that as the tenants continue to pay the rent, they're slowly paying down your building. So it gives you so many opportunities to have value within this space that ultimately is limited on many different spaces because they're usually limited to 1 or 2 of those parts.
Diversity, passive income, tax benefits. I mean, those are just a couple of the reasons that Jason just gave us for why there's a huge opportunity when it comes to doing what he's doing in the real estate game, Fire Nation. And you have a phrase, the 100-mile mindset. What does that mean?
Especially today in the day of social media, is that we see the result, but we miss the action, right? We miss the action that's been taken, and all the steps have been taken to get to that result. And so our thoughts about how quickly things should come or what should be in front of us, it gets eluded, right? Because we think, oh man, I tried something and it didn't work. And I started running, about a little over a decade ago. I've done, dozens of marathons, dozen of ultra marathons. And what it came up to is I was doing my first 100-mile race, and I thought to myself, like, how am I going to prepare for this? Because the marathon, you'll maybe go out and run some 20 or 22-mile runs before you do the marathon as part of your training package, just training up to that. And it wasn't like I was going to go run a couple 80-mile runs, right, prior to this 100-miler. So I said, I'm going to get up and run every single day 6 miles, whether it's cold, hot, rainy, snow, my knee hurt, my ear hurt. I'm just going to continue to do it, right? And that is going to set the frame for what it is. Because what I found is when you get into these races, if you think about your life and your success and your goal, if you think about that goal, if you've never achieved it before, many times it's not the fear of failure that gets us, it's the fear of success, because we can't understand that feeling. And so out of the gate, we stop ourselves from getting started. But ultimately, if you can think about, if say you want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro or something, what's that first step we need to take, right? So when I started this race, I said, okay, let me just get out to the first drink station. That's about 5 miles out. And then I'll just kind of see where I am and figure it out from there. And then let me run to that next aid station and the next drink station and the next point, and I'll just keep figuring it out from there. And, and each point that got difficult, I said, well, let me just see if I can just get to that next point and just see how I feel. And so 25 miles, 30 miles, then it might be, let me get to the bridge, right? Let me get another 500 steps. Can I just run another 200 steps? Let me run another 100 steps. Can I just run to that tree? And you've just completed a 100-mile race. And for me, I did 100 miles in, 5 and 2 and 1 mile races. And that's a lot like success in business and entrepreneurship. We think about the goal as that point that, oh, I don't know how to get there. But if you just take that first step, you'll understand if that step's in the right direction or not by just getting yourself out of the gate. And most of our success is that we surround ourselves with good people, and we also take action. And with action gives you better questions so you get better results. Because every time I haven't been able to get to the results I want, it's because I haven't learned the questions that I need to ask to get me the results that I want to get.
Fire Nation, I love that old Indian proverb, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And something else that really struck me to the core, I hope you heard it, Fire Nation, the fear of success. The fear of success. Everybody talks about the fear of failure. What about the fear of success? Because so few people have experienced it, they don't even know what that feeling is, and it just hits them in this crazy way. And I hope that comment hit you, Fire Nation, because it's hard to hear, but it's so true for so many. We're going to be talking about funding, raising money without asking for it, producing massive income, and niches when we get back from thanking our sponsors. Automation is important in every business, but it's not always easy to set up and manage. Wouldn't it be nice to have an ally to help? Whether you have a one-time project or are looking for an ongoing partner to help make your business data more accessible, there's Prosper Spark. Prosper Spark takes the oftentimes unforgiving world of business and numbers and, using Excel, automates your business processes for you. If you're looking to create a customized dashboard, build a proposal generator, a financial model, or do pricing analysis, Prosper Spark can create and deliver it for you. And no company is too big or too small. Prosper Spark helps clients of all sizes and in all industries, from your local cafe all the way up to Fortune 100 companies. Anything and everything you can imagine in Excel, and even the stuff you can't, Prosper Spark can help. Book a free project call with Prosper Spark today at prosperspark.com/fire. Once again, that's prosperspark.com/fire, and mention Entrepreneurs on Fire to receive a 10% discount up to $1,000 on your project or service agreement. Looking for a new career, especially one that is remote? Navigating the online space can be hard. Which business model do you choose? Amazon, dropshipping, affiliate marketing, podcasting? One of the easiest ways to get started is through remote high-ticket closing. Closers.io is a world-leading sales training and certification company that turns everyday ambitious individuals into high-performance salespeople inside of the alternative education industry. Whether you're brand new to sales or you're a seasoned salesperson and tired of cold prospecting and long sales cycles, Closers.io can train and certify you in high-ticket selling. Clients who have completed the Closers.io sales certification have gone on to work with big brand names like Tony Robbins, Frank Kern, Dean Graziosi, and Jay Abraham, among many other big brand names in the education and personal development space. For more info on Closers.io sales certification, visit Closers.io/EOF. That's Closers.io/EOF. Are you looking for a platform that's easy for your entire team to use and that also helps your business grow better? HubSpot is a CRM platform that's built to help businesses from startup to enterprise with tools and features teams actually use. Instead of wasting time trying to manage your software, what if you were actually uncovering customer data insights like the average time it takes your team to close a sale? HubSpot is here to make your work life easier with things like their Sales Hub. HubSpot's sales software ties all your data and tools together in one intuitive, easy-to-use platform so that you can close more deals without more tools. And their Marketing Hub, where you can build your entire marketing funnel to attract and convert more leads while keeping your sales team in the loop every step of the way. These are just a couple of the ways HubSpot eliminates friction, empowering your team to do their best work. Learn how HubSpot can make it easier for your business to grow better at HubSpot.com. Jason, we're back, and let's be blunt. Attaining funding of any kind is tough. Asking for it can be even tougher. So let's talk about how to raise money without asking for it.
Sure. And, we talked about the benefits of multifamily investing, the opportunity to have cash flow appreciation and more profit, the debt pay down, the tax advantages of depreciation. Well, we bring in passive investors to this opportunities, right? What that allows is we do this through syndication, right? There's Reg D opportunities that the SEC allots for that we can go and raise capital, whether through accredited investors or through sophisticated investors, as long as we have a pre-existing relationship in certain type of offerings here. And we do this in a way that there's so many benefits for them, but just like we said that we didn't know that this was available because we thought it was only available to, big companies, big REITs. Most investors don't know that this opportunity is something that's out there for them, and also how it can benefit from them. And when you think about buying an apartment building, it can be staggering. And we did not want to put investors on the spot where you hear a lot that if you find a deal, you'll find the money. And sure, you might find the money, but you're also putting a lot of stress on your investors because you need to raise capital. And so you ultimately need their money. So before we brought that first 94 unit, we made a list of just all kinds of people in our network. And we went out and we created a sample deal, a one-page deal of what kind of apartment building we're looking for, the area we were looking for, how we were structuring it, how the returns would work for them. And we went out and started having conversations to ask them. And ultimately it was, one, telling them about us. And so a lot of them had known us, but they knew us from different spaces, right? So I'd opened, restaurants and opened bars, opened and sold a brewery. So they knew me from other spaces. So they knew I would commit and take action, but they did not know me from the commercial real estate world. So I had to talk to them about why we were so excited about this, like I explained earlier, and then how the process worked. And then next, how this could potentially be something that could be beneficial for them, depending on what they're looking for, if they create passive income or the tax advantages, right? And we would give them the option to take the time to understand this. Now, remember, we only had a mock deal, but it was a representation of what we wanted to find. And we would allow them the time to take this all in, to understand how it worked. And then we would ask them if this is something they would be interested in. And if they were, and we would have a lot of conversations that they would, then say, would you be interested to invest $50,000, $25,000, $100,000? And this allowed two things. One, it gave them the time without having the real pressure of the deal to understand the process, understand the parameters of how this worked. And then from us, it gave us the certainty that when we did find that deal, that we had enough. Now, we didn't take anybody's money at the time, but we had enough commitments, soft commitments, that we felt good that we could raise capital to be able to go out there to buy that type of investment. So when we came upon that 94 unit, we had a raise of somewhere between about $700 and $800,000. And although, we had already done the legwork for it, we went back to that same investor set and we raised that money in a day. It wasn't a day at that time. It was weeks and months prior of preparing investors. When we went back to them, they were already fulfilled in what we had provided. And so they knew of the opportunity. So I wasn't putting the stress on them to understand something that was foreign to them before and then make a decision about investing. And doing that and continuing to do that in our process, we've now raised tens of millions of dollars at this point, all through that same process of giving investors the opportunity to see if this is right for them, because it's not always going to be right for them. But ask what they're looking for in investments, understand our side of what we do, so they can ask good questions, have time to review, and we've been able to raise millions and millions of dollars doing this process.
That is quite the process, Fire Nation. I hope you were taking notes. But hey, the good news is hit that rewind button and you can listen to it again to make sure you fully understand the process that Jason just broke down for us. Now, producing massive income with, and this is an important caveat, an effective management team is the dream. How can Fire Nation attain this dream?
You know, when you look at what you're doing, whether it's in your core business or if you do want to invest with others, you have to see, well, what's the business plan, right? Because we can have a great plan, but if we don't have the team to implement the plan, it's all for naught. And what I love about apartment buildings is it actually comes back to our days running very, big restaurants and bars in New York City, is that you can look at a business and see how it's not performing, right? And it might not be performing because they're not maximizing on revenue, not sourcing out other income drivers, or on the expense side, maybe they have too much labor, or their resources are be allocated correctly, or their management practices are poor. So when we look at these buildings, we see how they're underperforming, and it could be on the building side, where the building has a lot of deferred maintenance, or it could be on the management side, right, where they're not seeking the things I just spoke about. So we look for ways to capitalize on the building where we can create more value, and in the same front, drive more revenue and reduce our expenses so we can increase our bottom line. And that ultimately creates more value for the building, but also creates better revenue, of course, and cash flow for our investors to create better returns. And we can do this in a lot of ways. You can capitalize on just catching where there's other income drivers that weren't being allocated before. Maybe the market says that tenants should be paying for utilities and the owner on the property is paying for utilities. Maybe there's different ways to capitalize on contracts for cable or contracts for laundry. You can add in more revenue drivers. Maybe you can charge income for trash valet, or for covered parking, or for preferred parking. Or on the expense side, we once had even that first 94 unit, we changed out all the toilets. We controlled and took down any of the leaks in the building, really set up aerators for the showers and faucets, and it allowed us to reduce our water bill by 25 to 30%.
Wow.
And the reason that's a big deal is that when it gets to the bottom line, the way that apartment buildings and commercial real estate is valued is based on a cap rate. And that actually created, just by changing the toilets, so say it was $25,000, $30,000, we actually created something like $350,000 of value on that building, just became able to go on the scale of what we were doing to accomplish our mission.
Fire Nation, again, this is just an example of a master at work at what they're great at, which to me is a great segue to the last thing that I really want to talk about here today, which is the niches. I mean, Jason, you become a master of the niche that you chose, and you become a person that's created systems and tools and processes all around it. Like, you're figuring things out, because truly the riches are in the niches. So break it down for Fire Nation, our listeners, as to why a narrow focus will actually produce the most opportunities.
So many times, and this is a great question, is that we think that more and more opportunity gives us more opportunity to get what we want. However, if you have too much opportunity and you're not selective for what you want to look for, sometimes people will come to the space, they'll try to focus on a lot of markets. And so maybe they'll focus on Miami, they'll focus on Boise, they'll focus on New Jersey, they'll focus on Kentucky, right? And they're so spread out that they start to have a lot of deal flow come to them, but they can't tell what's actually a good deal because they're not focused on what they're looking for. And then they'll have too much supply of opportunity that by the time they figure out what's actually right for them, the deal has already gone to someone who was very selective. So when we first started out, we started in Louisville, Kentucky. We picked that market. We were specific on what we wanted. We wanted a 50 unit to 125 unit building built between 1970 and 2000, which is a BC asset, basically a workforce housing property, a garden style property. We wanted in the South or the South Central submarkets because we knew that's where a lot of the properties were. So we were really focused on that area. But what that allowed is that not only, it's like the reticular activator, when you want to buy a car, right? You start seeing that car everywhere. So I want to buy a blue Chevy Tahoe, and just lo and behold, they just start showing up everywhere. Well, when you're very focused, you start finding that opportunity because now you're really dialed in to do so. But on the other side of it, what helps is that if I was to come to a real estate broker and I was to say, hey, I want to buy an apartment building. Well, to them, That could be a 2-unit, that could be a 700 unit. It could be a new construction building, it could be a 1940 building. It could be, a development project. They don't know what we're looking for, so they're going to send us everything, right? But on the other front, if I tell them exactly what I want, well, what happens? I start to receive those type of opportunities back. And then I'm starting to understand, right, how those opportunities function, how they meet in the market, how the competition looks, like how the comp sets look, what are the opportunities I can do with this type of building. And so although someone else who's trying to do everything might get 1,000 opportunities and I might get 10, well, they might get to maybe one good opportunity out of that 1,000, and maybe I'll get 3 out of the 10. So it cuts down the overall chaos of you trying to find out something that you don't know exactly what you want for, and it actually creates more opportunities because the opportunities that come to you are much more dialed in for what you want for your business plan. And we've carried that through into other markets. We continue to be very consistent what we're looking for. And so it allows other people to help us instead of just hopefully thinking that we'll come upon something at the right time.
Jason, take this home for us. You dropped so many value bombs throughout this entire conversation, talking about the focus and the niches, building the dream team. We've talked about funding without asking for it, the 100-mile mindset, just that one step at a time. What's the one thing out of all these conversations that you really want to make sure Fire Nation gets before we say goodbye?
Anybody can do this, whether you want to be an active investor or a passive investor. So if you want to drive, and this can be in business or real estate in general, and typically I heard someone say it very well, is that everyone has something to offer, right? You might have time, knowledge, credit, or money. We typically don't have all of them at the same time, but maybe you don't have the money or you don't have the credit, but you have the time to go out there and learn and find opportunities. And then you can partner with someone who maybe is a doctor, has a ton of money, but no time to go out and find these and wants access to real estate. And so if you can think about yourself as an opportunity provider because you have one of those core factors, and trust me, you do have one of those core factors, then you have every possibility to go out there and succeed in this space, whether it be through actively investing yourself or passively investing with groups like ours, right? And so when you can think about that, your limitation is only in your mind because the opportunity is there for everyone to take action on what they want to do.
Jason, how can Fire Nation connect with you? How can we just learn more about what you have going on? Any call to action you have for us? Then we'll say goodbye.
Sure. Yeah. And again, thank you for having me on here. So our team created a great link. You can go over to yarusiholdings.com, and that's YARUSI holdings.com and /EOFire. And if you go over to there, yarusiholdings.com /EOFire, we'll have a great link to a PDF talking about all the benefits of how to get started and how to get active into passive investments, create more income streams with you and your life. And you want to learn more about our company, feel free to go to yarusiholdings.com. We have a lot of great content there as well.
Fire Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You've been hanging out with JY and JLD today. So keep up the heat and head over to eofire.com. Type Jason in the search bar. The show notes page will pop up with everything we've talked about today. yarusiholdings.com /EOFire. Check that out, Fire Nation. Great stuff there. And Jason, thank you, my man, for sharing your truth, your knowledge, your value with Fire Nation today. For that, we salute you, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you, John.
Hey, Fire Nation. Today's Value Bomb content was brought to you by Jason, who sponsored this episode. Fire Nation, successful entrepreneurs are great at 3 things: productivity, discipline, and focus. That's why I created the Mastery Journal, so you can master productivity, discipline, and focus in 100 days. And we're talking step by step. Visit themasteryjournal.com, and I'll catch you there or on the flip side. Success Story, hosted by Scott D. Clary, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network and features Q&A sessions plus convos on sales, marketing, business, and more. A recent ep on how to protect your business in times of crisis is a must listen. Listen to Success Story wherever you get your podcasts.